Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm going to real quick here. Let me get my comments. There we go. Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jasmine Ambrosia. If you don't already know, welcome to my channel. I'm very excited tonight to be able to talk to my lovely, special, talented, charismatic, beautiful guest. And so I'll just go ahead and let them introduce themselves to all of you.
Hi, I'm Belladonna LaVeau. I'm the matriarch of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. And I've been a priestess of Wicca for a very long time. I've been in Wicca since 1988.
Wow.
Way before the internet.
Yeah. So what has that sort of transition with technology kind of looked like for you? Like, do you feel like the internet and technology has made witchcraft much more accessible? Do you feel like it's helped the craft? Do you feel like it's harmed the craft? Like, I feel like, there's pros and cons with everything, right? But what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, before the internet, we had exercises to teach our students how to spot witches. You learn how to tell if somebody was an initiate or not by looking at their aura and stuff like that. You had to just, figure it out. Whereas now you can just look it up on the internet. It's a lot easier to find people. When the internet came out, we had to find a different way to communicate. So there was a lot of, well, it's where the witch wars came from, was when the internet came. All of the witches started talking to each other, and witches don't all think alike. So
absolutely,
we didn't know that until the internet, though. We all thought everybody thought like us. And then when we had the internet, we met all of these other witches. It was like, wow, okay, so we have to learn how to communicate. So that took a little bit of, effort and like a decade or two, maybe 3. But yeah, we're still growing in how we interact. But I think that the variety has educated us more than anything. Whenever you get any single group of people alone together, they get real, narrow-minded in their thinking because they all think alike. And variety opens your mind and helps you learn other views. And that's really good, because education and awareness and all of that, it lifts all ships, so bringing all of the different perspectives together is what we need to transform our reality. So it's been a growing pain journey, just like anything, but I think overall getting to have more information is better than none.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's kind of revolutionized. I mean, the internet, I feel like, has just changed and touched so much that, of course, I feel like it would touch the craft too. But I feel like, witchcraft and paganism is something that tends to evolve. And I think we talked about that a little bit earlier today when we were just kind of having our meet and greet. And I feel like witchcraft, and especially with the rise of like social media and apps and networking like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, all these apps, I feel like in some ways it has helped there be more accessibility to the craft. Because some people I know, like, there are people who don't even live near a metaphysical store. There are people who don't live anywhere near a library, or if they do, their library may or may not even carry metaphysical or occult books.
Well, they could live next door to a witch and not know it too.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know how to spot somebody. So that's the thing. It has changed our magic for sure. Like I said, we used to have to learn how to figure out who was which and who wasn't from looking at their auras and stuff like that. Whereas today, you don't have to do that. But we have different magics. We didn't understand how readily energy traveled across time and space without the internet, and now we understand that you can just envision energy instead of having to like you can put the energy of amethyst into something without actually having an amethyst, by just knowing what amethyst is and sending it across the internet, right?
Right.
Or even like we have things like Second Life where you draw an amethyst and you put the energy into it and you can give it to somebody else and they have it. And it's not a real amethyst, but it has the energy of it in it because you put it there. So that's a whole different kind of magic
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. And I think the digital kind of sphere has really changed magic and our human experience. I mean, we talk about things taking place in the physical and the astral, but now I feel like there's a lot of big shifts and, energy vibrations that happen in the digital. I mean, like our memes and our emojis are pretty much like modern day hieroglyphs, really.
It's true. And sometimes I'm like, what does this mean? Yeah, I don't get what some old meme. Well, it is a completely different language too. So for like our school was in Second Life for a decade. Second Life is a 3D virtual world where it's a conference platform, but a lot of people think it's a game because it's very graphically rich, right? We have a whole island in Second Life where people do magic. They also have dances and they get together and read each other's cards and do healings and all kinds of things like that. We practiced in Second Life for a decade. We moved the school off of there just recently because the technology changes and webcams have become much more the norm now, where a decade ago people were not so much into webcams. We had the technology, but people didn't use them as much. Necessity is the mother of invention. When the
Yeah.
pandemic hit, you couldn't get a webcam because they were all purchased. We didn't realize how much we needed the visual stimulation.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the Aquarian Tabernacle Church and the school and tell us about that?
Absolutely. Well, the Aquarian Tabernacle Church was founded in 1979 by Pete Pathfinder Davis. He was raised by a lawyer, and so he kind of learned law at the dinner table. He wasn't a lawyer, but he became a civil rights activist for Wicca. When he founded his church, he had to do it under the Universal Life Church, and he just realized that we needed the same civil rights as all the rest of the religions. So he's somewhat of a legend to the old guard because before Pete came along, people really couldn't get legal churches. You had to go through the ULC. A lot of people still do because they don't know the resources that are available to them. But we have a group exemption from the United States government. It's a 501 group exemption, which gives us the ability to create charities and churches and institutions such as the college or Spiral Scouts. And we have a religious soul corp. So we have the same legal designation as the Mormons and the Catholics, where there's a facilitating kind of oversight person. That's the archpriesthood. And then we kind of we kind of wrangle all of the different institutions and charities and churches and all that and make sure that the services flow between each other. We're not a governing body. We don't tell people what to do. We're a facilitating body where we provide big church resources for all of these small individual groups, because some churches are 3 people running everything, and then they have 10 members come at Sabbats and Moons and participate, and then some churches have 200 people participate. So you have all of these different people who it's really difficult to provide the kind of resources a church needs when there's just 3 of you, because those kinds of things are expensive. So by working together, the mother church kind of provides that central resource area so that we can all share in that kind of a resource. We can get grants, and we have a college, wiccanseminary.edu. It's Wolstenstein Theological Seminary on your diploma. So when you talk to other ministers. It's not like Wiccan Seminary, kind of sounds like whatever, but Wolstenstein Theological Seminary is the name of the school. The Wiccan Seminary is the Earl.
Okay.
And easier for you to find, right? WiccanSeminary.edu, that's how to find it. It is a legal degree granting body. You get scholastic degrees. It's not like you get an initiation into first degree. We don't teach you a tradition. We teach you the scholastics behind the degrees, such as the mythology. And you learn how to write rituals. You learn how to read cards. You do a lot of shadow work. The second year, you do shadow work. The first year, it's a lot of the lay of the land. Like, this is what we believe. This is how to draw stars in the air. This is how to call a quarter and cast circle. And then second year is a lot of shadow work where you work with different deities and you figure out what's standing in the way of your power. And we open up your power center so that you are able to actually accomplish the things that you hear people talk about magically. And then teach how to write rituals, like I said, stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
So
And when you're done, go ahead.
I was gonna say what kind of resources um and non-for-profits are like provided, and what non-for-profits do you guys work with?
We have Spiral Scouts, which is a youth organization. It's like Boy Scouts, only it's co-ed, boys and girls together. We're pagan, so there's a lot of different kinds of issues that children face right now that the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts make it difficult to just be you, whereas we're all inclusive. Wicca Press, Panegyria, Pagan Information News Network. Is it just Pagan Information Network? Pagan Information Network. It's a news station. We have the Illusionian priesthood, where we put on the Illusionian Mysteries every year. It's the restoration of the Illusionian Mysteries from ancient Greece, where Demeter had her holy city, and the Greeks would go and pilgrimage every year to Eleusis, and they had this big, huge, holy celebration festival. We do that. We have festivals in the fall. We have churches all over the world. We have the Archpriestess of Africa onboarding this month. We had the Archpriestess of Australia and Canada. We have churches in Italy and Scotland, Wales, lot of places all over the world, kind of, and France. So we help people that have a mission make it happen. So like there are things that we're starting to need today, like an adoption agency. We need a pagan adoption agency for pagan children. Somebody comes forward and they're like, I want to do this certain project and I need help. We know how to make it legal. We know what to do about taxes and all of that kind of stuff. So we help you plug in to the greater community as well as get legal and have protection. Because if you're just this little guy out here trying to do good for the world and the county zoning board comes to shut you down, you don't know what to do, right? But we've had that happen before, so we do know what to do. And you call us and we say, hey, these are your rights. If you don't know what your rights are, they can tell you anything and you just kind of go, oh, well, okay, let me back off into my corner. But the ATC don't really stand in the corner too well. We've sued the federal government twice and won.
So what is your role in this on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month? What does an average day look like for you?
My calendar kind of runs my day. I get up in the morning and I'm at the Mother Church, so we have morning devotional. It's checking in with different department heads, figuring out what we can do to service the community at any given time with the current conditions. We've moved all our stuff online during COVID so that we don't have to risk anybody getting sick. There's a marketing department and an IT department and a school ministry and school education, and there's a store. There's all of these different departments to run in the ATC. And I have people that run all of those that I get together with and help them solve problems and help them all work together. And like, I know that what everybody's doing. So I'm kind of the hub. People are like, I need the secretary. I tell the people this person needs a secretary or an assistant or whatever it is. I'm a new marketing person or whatever. So I'm kind of the network connector, so to speak. And I'm married to the archpriest. We hang out here and run the place and make sure that, such as people send in offerings. I got some offerings in the mail, and so we make sure that they're appropriately honored. And this is going to go up into the Hikate Shrine, and we'll burn these herbs in a witch's cauldron, and I'll videotape it and teach everybody how to do a witch's cauldron while we're doing it. Stuff like that, just serving, taking care of the property, listening to the goddess. She talks to me all the time. We have the Hikate Shrine is a full it's a full-time shrine. There's nothing in it but Hikate stuff. Nobody lives in it. It's a shrine in the back right in front of the circle. We have a stone circle back there, as well as a garden circle. There's statues all over the property. It has to be taken care of. We have gardens for Save the Seeds Foundation. So it's taking care of the place and taking care of the people. That's what we do every day.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So before, I imagine, before really COVID was hitting, you guys were hosting events there and rituals there on the property then?
Yes, we have. Well, the Mother Church is a permanent monastery. So we have circles here. We have a couple different circles here. We have a formal circle with, like the standing stones, like Stonehenge standing stones. Now, it's not anywhere as big as Stonehenge, but there are standing stones around the circle and menhirs and stuff like that. So we have to maintain those. People come and worship. The people in the church put on the rituals. I don't put on rituals anymore. I've done them. I go to them now. It's really nice to be able to go and enjoy a ritual instead of having to put it on. So that's a beautiful benefit of being an elder. And I teach online at the school, at the college. And of course, we do spiritual counseling. I'm a full-time spiritual counselor. I read tarot on keen.com. If you look up Lady Belladonna LaVeau, I'm on keen.com. I'm on Facebook. I try to be real available to people. We're on TikTok, out there.
Yeah. Do you, so does the Mother Monastery, are there various groups that come in and kind of like rent the place then?
No. I was just telling the maiden of the Mother Church that one of the benefits of being in the archpriesthood is you get to live here if you need to. So it's a full-time parsonage, and we have a coven at the Mother Church, and every coven has a different mission. Like this coven might own this store and everybody works in the store, and this coven might teach classes, and this coven might be a healing coven and different things like that. So we run the archpriesthood. That's what the Mother Church does. So the people that are in my coven, the particular students, they come here and they put on rituals, and people all over the local area come to the Mother Church and attend the moons and Sabbaths. But the local group, like Evergreen Hearth, is in the south of here. They run their own rituals. They have their own property. The people in Spokane have their own rituals, run their own property. We don't really do. We live way out in the mountains. So I say we live in Seattle, but it's actually Index, which is an hour and a half from Seattle. See, on the East Coast, everybody's real close. On the West Coast, everybody's real far away. Real far away. Our coven members normally drive an hour and a half one way to an event.
So at the monastery, then it's more just there's one group that's putting on the rituals, but people from outside of the group come and attend.
Right. It's been here for 40 years. So there are people who've been coming out here there. We have a lot of elders, a lot of new people, but it's a drive. So it's not like people could just rent it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have weddings, but
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, it really is.
That's cool.
Weddings, wickenings, just the same stuff that other covens would do. We just also have all of these different departments. So
Mhm.
this student might be running Wiccan Seminary. This student might be running the store. This student might be running Seattle Psychics Association. So it's that kind of coven. It's a little bit different in the sense that there's a lot of business involved in it. But we also do a lot of magic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think that we met. See, that's the cool thing about the internet is that we're in two totally different geographical locations, but because of the internet, right, we've been able to kind of like link up and connect. And I think we met on Facebook. I'm not sure if I added you, if you added me,
Yeah.
or what
No,
exactly.
I think I added you. I was like, oh, this chick looks cool. I'm going to friend her. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
We look a lot
accept.
alike in we look a lot alike. Not our features are a lot alike, but we look like the same kind of witch in some ways.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We
Yeah.
haven't talked like extensively about our crafts, but it feels that way for sure. It feels that
Well,
way.
like you have a tapestry on the ceiling that I have in my bedroom. I'm an astrologer. You're an
Okay.
astrologer. I'm into herbs and healing and reading cards and all of that kind of stuff. You look
Yeah.
like you do. You're a full-time witch, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm a
Yeah. See,
full-time
there's not
witch.
a whole lot of us.
Yep. Yep. I'm a full-time witch. I teach classes. We host, I'm the high priestess of the Solar Court Coven. We host rituals. We are affiliated with a local metaphysical store. That's one of the oldest metaphysical stores in our state, Spiritual Gardens. We have a classroom there. So, yeah, I do stuff on Patreon. I do stuff here on YouTube. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
would say
So
I'm,
we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. So I saw you and I was like, I'm gonna be friends with her. And I sent you a friend's request and then you joined and then I invited you to Naughty Witches Charm School. And
yeah. And
yeah.
I remember you had sent me a message, or I had, like, after we became friends on Facebook, you said hello to me, or I said hello to you. And we were talking about witchy education. And you sent me a link to your school because I think you were asking, I think you said, like, how's your day going or something. And I sent you a picture of me teaching with all my students, wearing their masks and kind of being socially distanced. I think that was the second phase of TTC, the tarot training course, from the picture that I sent you. And you were like, oh, you're a teacher too. And like you sent me a link to I think the Wiccan Seminary
Mhm.
school. So yeah,
Yeah.
very kindred in that way. Very
Yeah.
kindred in that way.
I like making friends with people that I can relate to who are in different areas because you never know how we can strengthen each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the powerful things about the internet is that witches from across the world are able to kind of like touch into these digital ley lines, is how I like to think of them, where we can kind of like right now, there is a digital cord connecting where you're at geographically to where I'm at geographically. And like
Yeah.
at the speed of light, how cool is that?
That's very cool. I really enjoy it. And that's why I said it's changing the way we do magic and stuff like that. I saw a article in some news always on the internet about some spiders in Texas. And I had a vision with it. These spiders, if you put spiders in a cage, they fight and eat each other. Like the reason that we use worm silk and not spider silk is because if you put 1,000 worms in an aquarium, silkworms, they'll just all sit there and make silk. If you put 1,000 spiders in an aquarium, they'll eat each other until there's just one, right? And so this article was all of these spiders had woven this big web together and they had covered this entire park. It was over a mile square. And the scientists were like, spiders don't do this. This is crazy. And they studied it and they took pictures of it. And it was a lot of spiders made this web. It was pretty impressive. But it made me think that witches are, we like to say we're cats, but we're really a bunch of spiders, like, you know?
Yeah, I think
And,
so.
and here before now, like I was talking about when you said, how's the internet? Well, you know, it's got its pros and cons because we're all a bunch of spiders. But I think that times have changed and we have grown confident enough in our own practices because when the internet was young, so was Wicca. The Wicca and paganism had just really started in the 50s and 60s. And by the time we got the internet, there were some people who were going strong, but most people were going, what do you mean God is a woman? What do you mean God is a woman? Are you kidding me? God is a woman, right? So now we've gotten to a place to where we can work together and create one big web, and each of us can take pride in what we can contribute to the whole, and in that way we can change the world. So I'm really hoping that we finally got to that place where we can build that big spider web like the spiders big and did in Texas.
Yeah, I think that our community on, because we have like our inner community, like our own groups, covens, friend groups, whatever. Then we have our, local community. And then you have like the wider community. If we look at this as like the different webs that we weave and how we flow and connect to these webs, I think, I don't think that the internet is what created the concept and the practice of witch wars. I think that the internet has made them public. I think that's
Yeah.
the thing. I mean, I wasn't necessarily here in the physical 40 years ago that I am aware of, theoretically, right? But I would imagine witches were still eating each other like spiders
Well,
50,
yeah,
100
like
years ago.
there's stories that you have to have witchdoms so far from each other because priestesses will fight.
Yeah, and
And
I think too, and I won't get too much into this since we're live. I will talk more about this off air. So, like, once we hit the off air button, you and I will still be sitting here. And if you have time, we can talk a little bit off air.
okay.
But my local community, I think I'm probably the most infamous witch in my local area because of some things that have gone on and things I have said and done that I stand by 100% unapologetically. And I've definitely seen groups and covens and priestesses and priests really kind of be at each other's throats. Um, but I don't think that's necessarily just my local Indiana community. I think that that's the witchy community as a whole. Sometimes you have people who are very egotistical in places of, big power, and their ego kind of runs and fuels, and they pick favorites and all of that.
Well, that's why I was saying I think that we have gotten confident enough in our practice that we can work together more because when I became archpriestess, I drove all over the country and I met all the elders. And I also went and met Don Lewis, Selena Fox, Oberon Zale's part of my tribe. So I already knew him, but I asked them what advice they had for me. And one of the things that they told me was that we all get along at this level because we're all confident in our own stuff. And so the level below us fight and to not get involved in those fights. That's what they said. Like it's a confidence issue. If witches are all fighting with each other, it's because they think that people might think they're a better witch than them. And that's why they end up fighting about it. And I was like, that's probably true. If you really look down at it, it's insecurity. People want to be accepted and they want to be validated. And when they feel insecure or threatened in their knowledge, or they get upset and then they fight.
Well, and I'm a big believer too that if you are a lion, you don't need to convince me that you're not a lamb.
That's
Period.
true.
You know what I mean? Like, as a lion, you are a lion, period. Or a spider or a scorpion or whatever. Like, you are that. You don't need to convince me that you're not that. To me, greatness and excellence, you don't have to remind me or tell me that you are, because real can recognize that.
Right. He who stands in the middle of the room and shouts, I am king, is surely no king.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, one thing that I found out recently, and I have explicit permission to ask you about this on air, because I asked you earlier, I was like, can we talk about this? Um, so, I think Bella is so fascinating. And I had no idea that Bella was on Wife Swap. What? I saw the episode that Bella was on Wife Swap probably a couple of years ago. Um, I'm not sure when it actually aired, but I'm pretty sure that I watched it significantly later than when it aired because I only watched it a couple of years ago, and it's a kind of older episode.
Mhm. It's about a decade old.
Yeah, and I had seen the episode. I think I've watched it like twice because I think initially a friend sent it to me and was like, "Look, there's witches on Wife Swap," you know. Um, and then I think a second time it was on my recommended when I was like scrolling through YouTube or something. But a friend of mine today, Tamra, was like, I was telling her about how I was doing this live tonight, and she's a high priestess that I have worked with in my local area, and our covens have come together and, kind of been like those spiders that weave. Like we put on these community events together, and we're good friends too. But she was like, yeah, she was on Wife Swap. And I was like, what? No way. And so I went on YouTube and I typed in, she told me, she was like, look up Wiccan Wife Swap. And I was like, okay. And I was like, holy, I've watched this before. And I had no idea this was Bella. And in the episode, Bella's got this beautiful long red hair, and Bella's hair is beautiful blonde too. I think I almost prefer the blonde more, but I didn't actually even realize that it was Bella, and I had seen it multiple times. So it was this weird cognitive like dissonance thing where I was like, wait a minute, a person I'm talking to was on Wife Swap? Like what world? So can you tell me, I mean, what was that like? I mean,
Okay,
Wife
well,
Swap is
first of
such
all, reality TV shows are not.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wife
So
Swap.
I thought
Wife
I was
Swap's
going
kind of already kind of like a gimmicky, very they try to have that shock value of like putting these very different wives. And if you guys haven't seen Wife Swap, it's basically where they take two families and they take each wife and swap them. And I think they stay for like a week or so or 2 weeks.
Yeah, they say it's 10 days. It's not 10 days. It's more like 7, 5, something like that. Uh, it it was long enough to where I hated it and wanted to go home. I really enjoyed the family I was with. He was great. We would be friends today if his wife was not nervous about it. We had a good time. He learned magic. I like men. Like I don't like men in like most of my friends are men. When I say that, most of my friends are men. I have male friends that we just get along because I have a real projective kind of energy, and men are easy to be friends with. So we just got along. She did not get along with my husband and my house. They messed with the spells there, which then the house a factor. I mean, I told them not to take anything off the walls and not to look in any boxes, and they did. And then things got really kind of wild and crazy for her, and she was not okay when she got to the table. But she was a really sweet woman who wanted to help her family financially by being on Wife Swap, and I got forwarded an email that they were looking for a Wiccan priestess to be on Wife Swap, and I called Pete and I said, Pete, what do you think about this? And he said, well, if you go and do it, we can control what they see and what they film. And I was like, okay. So we did, and it was a lot of fun. I absolutely loved my camera crew. They were super sweet. I taught them magic. We had a great time. The house in Georgia did not have such a good time. They had a very unhappy time. My kids still complain about how bad it was. My son lost his best friend. It was a disaster for them. But we all learned a lot. I got to learn what it was like to be on TV. We had to retake and retake and retake and retake. And I thought it was just going to be reality TV where they filmed us being cool. I mean, I was cool. He was cool. We were all cool. They had a cool kid. I thought they should have just filmed what we did, but no, they wrote it. And me and the guy, Carl, I don't even remember his name. I remember his last name. Uh, at the very beginning, he said, "Come here." And I went in the other room and he said, "I think that they're trying to make me look like an asshole." And I said, "Well, I think they're trying to make me look like a crazy bitch." And he said, "Well, let's work together and not let that happen." And I said, "Well, let me tell you what I got in my pocket." And I pulled fox teeth out of my pocket. And I said, "You take one of these and I'll keep one of these and we'll be on the same page." And he was like, "What is this?" And I told him. And so we had a fantastic time. It was great. I taught his son how to fly. It was awesome. But I take my party with me and I see the good in everything.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a fantastic family. I would have liked for her to be able to know me and not have to deal with the crazy that she dealt with, but she didn't get that opportunity. So there's that. It was fun. I'd do it again. I wouldn't do it again with my ex, but I'd do it again with Dusty. Yeah.
So it was just like an email that you got sent, or you said
Yeah.
someone forwarded you an email that they were looking for it. And so it was just one of
Yeah.
those things that just kind of happened. And you were like, well, okay. Like, what was going through your mind? You were like, oh, sure, I'll be a part of this project. And then.
And what was going through my mind was they they might find somebody who was gonna say something crazy like, Wiccans can turn into cats or whatever. And we wanted to have a situation where people weren't being kooky, and I don't know that we necessarily achieved that because of some of the things that happened on the others at my house. But that was the goal. I mean, I can only control me. So, but yeah, that was the plan. And they really tried hard to make it look like we were, outlandish. They wanted to dramatize it to get a bunch of viewers. That's what they do. And so about 3 days in, we all figured it out and kind of stopped playing ball. And they didn't give us the contract. See, the reason that my show is on YouTube and nobody else's wife swap show is on YouTube is because they breached the contract, and I threw a big fit about it and put the stuff online, and I just wouldn't play ball after that. And they had to rewrite the show as we went because they had to deal with me and all my magic and send in energy and messages to the other group when we weren't supposed to. And you have to deal with they asked me to not use magic, and I said it'd be easier to not breathe. Wouldn't it for you if they said don't use magic? Well, no. And my kids used magic too, so it was an interesting adventure for everybody.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from it. Yeah, it was valuable.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it definitely, I think, would be a very interesting experience. And like anything, there would be kind of like pros and cons. Like, I'm sure there was a lot of good that came out of it, and I'm sure there was not so good. But I think that's also kind of the nature of reality TV, because we know that reality TV is very much not reality. It's kind of like social media where you're sculpting a reality for people to view. It's an altered reality for people to view and to get shock out of and to make money. And yeah, so one of my questions about wife swap in general, there's one wife swap episode, and she's called the God Warrior. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
Just funny to me. Like, that's probably hands down one of my favorite wife swaps episodes.
Yeah, that was Trading Spouses. That was Fox.
Okay, Trading Spouses, not wife swap. That episode, I guess, totally different show, but insane.
Yeah.
And on Trading Spouses, then at the end, the husband and wives, they kind of like allocate funds to the other family.
Yeah. That didn't happen to us.
Wife swap doesn't do that.
No, we just get to spend the money how we want to spend the money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They also didn't give us as much either. The trading spouses, you get like $50,000, but they get to decide what to do with it. And Wife Swap, they just gave us $20,000 and we kept it. I opened a tattoo shop.
No way.
Yeah.
So, do you still have that shop?
Oh no.
You sold it?
My husband, my ex-husband was a tattoo artist. And so I opened a tattoo shop with the money. And well, actually that's anyway, he doesn't have it anymore. He moved to Idaho a few years ago after selling the shop.
Well, so since we're on the topic of tattoos, and I think someone earlier in the chat asked this or mentioned this, the tattoo that you have on your forehead, right? Can you tell us and tell my viewers about that and that experience?
So when Mist of Avalon came out, or when we read it, when me and my friends read Mist of Avalon, that was really powerful. And then they did a movie, and in the movie, the girls had the tattoos on their forehead, and I identify with the magic of Avalon. There's a lot of covens in the ATC that are related to Avalon. There's the Fellowship of Avalon, and that's a magic that appeals to me. I'm not really into King Arthur and stuff, but the Glastonbury, my path is related to Glastonbury. My initiating high priest received a vision of me on the tour and then moved to Dallas. And when he saw me in person, he was like, "Oh my God, I'm here to make you a priestess. You're going to be in charge of a house one day, a big, big, great house one day." And he told me this story, and I thought he was trying to get in my pants, and I didn't believe him, but that's just part of my path, that energy. So I started drawing the moon on with Maybelline because for rituals and stuff, because I felt like it just should be there. And when I met Dusty, who's my current husband, I didn't even have to touch him and it would smudge my moon. He's just rough and tumble. And I couldn't deal with a smudged moon. Like as soon as my moon would get smudged, I would be like, "Oh gosh, I have to fix it. Like it's just not elegant. It's not glamorous. It's not goddess. It's just, I couldn't deal with it." So I stopped wearing it. And my students were like, "That's no good." And one of my very close friends, Shawnee, wanted me to get it tattooed. And I thought that was kind of bold and probably shouldn't do it. And she was after it and after it and after it. And she said, "Let's all three do it." Me and her and the maiden of my covenant at that time. And she was like, "I'll go first." I was like, "Oh God, okay, fine. Like, fine, I'll do it." And so me and Shawnee still have the moons. We look like sisters. Everybody thinks we're twins. I think we were separated at birth, but I've never regretted it. I love it. It's like wearing a Catholic priest collar. You know that's a priestess when you see it. So people come up to me and start talking to me and asking me questions and stuff like that. And they look to me for guidance. And I think that's really important when you're in the public and you don't know that there are any other witches. And then you see somebody with a moon on their forehead. You're like, "Oh my goodness, I could probably go talk to her." And people do. And that's really not, it used to startle me. And then people would go, "Well, I'm talking to you because you have a moon on your forehead." And I would go, "Oh." But now I just take it in stride.
So do you have other tattoos or is that your only tattoo?
Oh, I'm covered in tattoos. I have a tattoo on my hand. It's a pirate. Little pirate with a bow on it.
That's
because I'm a pirate. I have tattoos all over me, like both arms. I've got, I'm covered.
So
I
have quite a few tattoos too. I don't have any facial tattoos. On a pain level, because I don't think tattoos particularly tickle. They don't always hurt, but some places are worse than others. Like my feet were awful. My feet, my hip bones, awful. My upper back, my thigh, my sleeve, cakewalk, total cakewalk. What was that like getting your forehead tattooed? Was that pretty sensitive?
So I have to have a cocktail of muscle relaxers and pain relievers to get tattooed on because I'm a sissy when it comes to pain. I'm very sensitive to discomfort. but you can't even feel it. Like you're always touching this. It's always exposed. It's over before you know it. No big deal.
Yeah.
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 The one on my back, the one on my arms, I'm no good with pain. I'm like, I cannot understand that we have tattoo shops where you can go in someplace and pay somebody to inflict that much pain on you.
Well,
But
so Bella, you might find this interesting. The other day, I made a blood magic video, and I was talking about how, in my opinion, I feel like tattoos are very much like, or can be, a modern day blood rite, where you can initiate or dedicate yourself. You know, I have
absolutely.
tattoos of various goddesses all over my body who
Hmm.
are very important to me, and I feel like getting that tattoo is very much a modern day blood rite, and I think that's what's very beautiful about the moon, because it's like kind of that blood right sacrifice. And I think part of the pain of getting that tattoo is part of the initiation.
I agree. I think that you're dead on with that. And if you go and get um a sacred tattoo, that is definitely how you should go about it. You can totally make the whole thing a ritual. If you find somebody who's a tattoo artist that's into that kind of thing, you can't just
Yeah.
show up at a random tattoo shop and be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do a ritual. But
Yeah,
yeah,
my tattoo artist, Lainey, which if you're watching, shout out to Ink and Alchemy. She's super awesome and she's kind of witchy too. And so when I told her, because she's doing my collie piece on my thigh, I told her, I said, look, when you're going to tattoo me, I'm probably going to have headphones in and I'm probably just going to like trance out the entire time and kind of do like a little bit of astral work while you're tattooing me. And she was just like, oh, okay. And it was just, you know, and she was really cool about it. So definitely shout out to Ink and Alchemy. And I want to give a shout out to everybody, the Nerdy Warlock, Star Ruby, Raven Bishop, Embrace Your Gift. Rosalinda, special shout out to you for using the keyword. Who else do we have in here tonight? Fairest one of all. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Baby Firefly. Special shout out to Nicole Marie Castillo. Um, Special shout out to Erica as well. Thank you guys for joining. So I have a story for you that I would like to hear your opinion on.
okay.
Before we wrap up here, because we've got about 15 more minutes or so. I try to stream for about an hour. Sometimes I ramble a little bit and we run over, but so I can show you pictures when we get off of this and when we're done talking. I'll go through my phone and I'll find these images and I'll send them over to you. But here's kind of a wild experience that I had, and this was very much like an awakening, I feel like, into being more of service and kind of being in a priestesshood and being more of service, right? Because before it was just a whole vibe. So one day I was taking a ritual bath, and one of my coven mates was actually over and they were staying in this room. They were spending the night, and I was taking a ritual bath. We had a ritual going on literally later that day, and I wanted to go take a nice, deep cleansing ritual bath, not like a let me clean myself bath, like an actual ritual bath with like the salts and oils and candles and this and that. And I used this really beautiful protection rosemary black bath bomb that just made my bath water jet black. And it just felt so, I don't know, it was a total vibe to be in black water like that. It was just so cool. And I'm laying in the bath and I'm really feeling it and I'm having a good time. And I feel like I'm vibrating. And the next thing you know, a whole can of shaving cream falls from my shower cabinet, smacks me right in the face. It smacked me so hard. I had a blood red, quite literally, a blood red scratch on my forehead that was a crescent moon, like this.
Wow.
And so I was like, at first, I was like so irritated because being. Being the goddess that I am, I like to present and, you know, project. And so when I got out and I realized I was bleeding, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't so good. So like I kind of ended everything after that, got out. I come back into the room to start getting ready where my coven mate is, and they're like, you're like really bleeding. And I'm like, I know, like, what the hell, you know? And so anyway, I got to stop bleeding and I still put on my makeup and did my hair and this and that. But at first I was kind of like self-conscious that I had this big gash on my forehead. And it it was weird that it looked like a crescent moon. And I didn't even register that it looked like a crescent moon until my coven mate was like, you kind of look like you have a red moon on your forehead. And then I looked at it and then it became cool. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I can kind of vibe with this. But yeah, I'll have to show you some pictures of that. And it was a really weird experience. And this happened prior to me ever even seeing anyone with a moon tattoo on their forehead. This happened well before I'd ever even heard of that, seen that, anything. And since then, I think maybe it's the powers of the algorithm, maybe it's the powers of the internet and how the internet recommends and shows you certain things. But since then, I've probably seen 6 other priestesses who have a blue moon. And so I'm like, I wonder what it is about a red moon, you know? And I've kind of toyed with the idea back and forth in my head. And I of course don't want to be disrespectful to some of the traditions and whatnot, but it was a really amazing experience. And I'm kind of sad that it didn't leave a really cool scar.
Right.
What do you think of that?
Cool. Well, the red moon, I've seen people with the red moon, that I believe if they're going to give you a moon on your forehead, you can't bleed. I mean, you can't bleed blue. You could definitely bleed red. You can't bleed blue. So if they're going to put a moon on your head, of course it's going to be red because you're going to bleed. But I've seen the red moon before, and it's beautiful and stunning. And I don't think that anybody would be offended. Like, I don't think people have proprietary information on tattoos and spirituality like that. I don't subscribe to that. I get to tell you what to do with your spirituality because I'm me, or whatever labels people put on themselves. If you want a red moon on your forehead and you feel like deity gave it to you, then I think you should do it. Definitely something falling out and hitting you on the head like that and putting a moon on your forehead while you got ritual coming that night would be an anointing from deity. Definitely. We used to draw the moon on the priestess's head. And sometimes if people ask for it, I still will. People come up and say, will you draw a moon on my head? And I do it. But I've kind of taught everybody to do it. You want me to teach how to do the moon like this one?
Oh, teach me? Sure.
So you get any kind of top like that comes off of a bottle, like a pop bottle. Okay. And you put it on your head where you want the moon, because some people I've seen it done wrong. That's why I'm telling you. You put it on where you want it. I don't have my glasses on because I can't see. You draw the bottom of the moon and then you just pull it up and you draw the other side of it. Okay. And so it's just the size of a Coke bottle top. Sometimes people think that it's bigger than a Coke bottle top. And so they draw it bigger and then they don't understand. But that's how you do it.
So can I ask you, everyone I've seen with the moon has had specifically a blue moon.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the significance behind it being blue?
Well, I have a story about that.
I'd love to hear it if you have time. I don't want to take too much of your time up or anything.
I don't have anything. I mean, no worries. Well, so when we went to work on the moon, the energy that I was getting from it was woad. So I was going for the color of woad. Right. But then Shawnee, my friend that got the moon first, she's a crazy Appalachian witch. Like, she comes up with stuff. If I really want to know the deep down dirty and I can't find it myself, I'll call Shawnee. Right. Like, that's just my person. So she has dreams. She comes to me and she said, what is the Order of the Garter? And I was like, well, the only thing I know about the Order of the Garter is the story that we have of the king who was, they had this big ball and this witch had on a witch's garter and it fell off. And the king picked it up and said that there was nothing wrong with it and put it around his arm and wore it, which essentially saved that woman's life because they'd have killed her, they'd have hung her. That's the story that we have. It's one of the old witchcraft stories. And she was like, well, that's interesting. And she looked it up or she had me look it up on the internet. And she said the goddess touched her moon, and she had a blue moon on her forehead. And she said, I love your moon. It's the color of the Order of the Garter. And so I looked it up, and indeed the color of the moon that we have on our forehead is the same color that they use in the logo of the Order of the Garter, which happens to be this ritzy royal kind of club. The royals are in it. It's like, you know, England and I think maybe Australia, but it is an old order, and we think it has something to do with magic and the goddess worship, maybe Freemasonry or something like that, because of the connections that Shawnee made through her dream work. But it was originally supposed to be woad, but we have since, and it's a specific blend. You can't find the color. Like I made it out of different tattoo colors, and it just seems to be the color that everybody, like, that just seems to be the right color. We don't know everything about witchcraft. We're rediscovering it as we go along, right? You know, we lost this in the burning times and everything. So that just seems to be the one. They had a similar color in the Mist of Avalon when they did it in the movies. So I don't know. That's just where we're at. That's the story I have.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I was curious, you know, about kind of like the significance behind blue, because for me, I mean, when that happened, like you said, you're not going to bleed blue, you know? So of course it was red. But when I've had visions of it since then, I've seen it still as red. And red is very much like a color that I associate with a lot. And so I was like, well, if I'm feeling called for this red, then is that kind of the antithesis of the blue? And because I've always been very much a black sheep my whole life, and I've always been very much like a bit of a rebel, even amongst the weird kids. Like I would rebel from the weird kids. Like I've always been very counterculture. I mean, I think just my existence itself sometimes is controversial, not for me, but for other people around me. And so I was like, well, maybe that's why it would be red and not blue.
I don't know. I've got students that tattooed red moons. I got one that's got a black moon on her forehead. I think that everybody has to be their own witch. The red is beautiful. It's more Persephone. Like, oh, okay. So I just got the answer. Thank you. So Hera is blue, queen of heaven. Persephone is red, queen of the underworld.
Yeah, and I remember when we were talking in Messenger, you were like, you were talking about Persephone.
Well, I'm holding Persephone this year. I'm the vessel of Persephone in the Eleusinian Mysteries. So the Eleusinian Mysteries are a pilgrimage from ancient Greece. It's the oldest pilgrimage in the world. It's the basic of basis of Western world culture. All our institutions are based on how they did things in Eleusis. It's just the basis of Western world culture. There's so much I could go into right there. We don't have time for it. And 40 years ago, the goddess came to the ATC and asked us to restore her mysteries. And so a priesthood has developed out of this, and we have a living museum where every year vessels are chosen to hold the spirit of the deities, the Olympians and the chthonic deities, for the Eleusinian Mysteries. And they literally hold the spirit of that deity for the year so that the gods can walk the earth. So I'm the living embodiment of Persephone this year, which is, it's a very different experience from being Hera or Demeter or Hikate or Aphrodite, which I've done all of those. And each god has its own museum artifacts, accoutrements, costuming, crowns, all of that kind of stuff. So when we do the Illusionian Mysteries at Spring Mysteries Festival Easter weekend this year, Easter weekend, springmysteries.com. If you want to register, it's all online this year. It's only $50, which is usually about a $200 festival, and you have to fly to Washington if you're not local to go. So $50 is a real good bargain, and you know you got the best seat in the house and you get to sleep in your own bed. So that's what we do. We put these mysteries on. People have a transformational experience. The people that are in cast get to hold the vessels, and we have modern day revelation. We write down what the gods are telling us from year to year. When I held Demeter, she told us that the pandemic was coming. She didn't tell us that it was going to be a pandemic. She said, in a year and a half, you're going to have this challenge that's going to be worldwide, and pagans need to stay safe and have a food supply. I would like for you to grow your own food, have local gardens. Food freedom is real freedom. You need to be able to provide for yourself if something happens. And I thought it was going to be a natural disaster. I didn't realize that was going to be a pandemic. But that's the kind of the work that we do as vessels. The Demeter talks to me all the time. I'm the Hierophant of the restored mysteries, and it's amazing to get to be a vessel. You experience deity talking to you, and you experience, like right now I can't eat anything. I'm vegetarian right now. I only want fruit and cream and yogurt and cottage cheese and fruit and more fruit. And I'll eat vegan, like chick patties and stuff like that, but meat I can't do it. And that's because Persephone is a vegetarian. It's not because I am. I've had to eat vegetarian before when I was holding Persephone. That's what we learn about her, because every year the vessel can't eat meat, and Hera has her own proclivities, and Aphrodite has her. Like when I was Aphrodite, I couldn't walk by flowers and so it's an interesting journey to get to be a vessel. It's unique and quite an honor. But she's one of my patron deities anyway.
I have a question for you real quick before we end this. Fairest One of All has a question for you, Bella. They would like to know, did you choose your goddess, or did your goddess choose you?
Yes. You know, when you have a patron reaches out to you, you kind of get this is the deity that I think is the coolest, that I want to pray to, that you feel akin to. Just like when you're standing in a room full of people and you see somebody that's really cool and you're like, I want to go meet that person and hang out with that person. That's kind of how it works with deities. When we are chosen as vessels, the gods choose us each year to be vessels, and that is something that the Imalpidai get together and we pray about and we bring forth. But if you're talking about my patrons, they definitely came to me and claimed me, but I also have always been drawn to them.
Do you think it's a little bit of like kind of a two-way thing where the gods kind of come to us, but we also receive them?
I think that in witchcraft, every time the question is either or, the answer is both.
Oh, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I like that. So before we wrap this up, did you have anything that you would like to say or promote, or some parting advice? Or
I really appreciate getting to come and be live on your show. I think you're a lot of fun and really awesome. I'm enjoying getting to know you. If you want to know more about my church, you can go to atcwicca.org. The link tree is in the comments, or and
it's in the video description.
Yeah, see, I'm accessible. I do a live every morning on Naughty Witch Charm School. It's a private thing. If you want to be a part of that, it's on Facebook. You can go and ask to be invited, and I'll check it out and make sure that you're actually a witch before I let you on there. But other than that, I'm pretty easy to access, and I love to meet new people. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, and the Facebook group is so cool. So I can't recommend it enough. Like it's really fun because Bella just like gets ready and it's fun because it's casual and you feel like you're just sitting there with a friend. So
Yeah.
that's what I like so much about the videos in the Facebook group.
Thank you. And you can ask questions about anything, and we just talking and having coffee while I put my makeup. I have to put my makeup on every day, and I miss everybody. So I go live while I'm doing it, and I just talk about whatever. And if you ask questions about magic, I'll talk about magic. If you ask questions about the yard, I'll talk about the yard. You know what I mean? Like whatever comes up, it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. I mostly talk about magic every time because I'm a little bit singularly focused, but magic and makeup. That's my
Love
thing.
it. Love it. Well, thank
Thank you
you
so
again
much.
so much. Yeah, thank you, Bella, for coming on and being so receptive and answering all of our questions and just being so transparent. And I would really love, I mentioned this to you earlier, and for all the viewers watching, I'm planning to do another Do All Witches Think the Same live game show, which, of course, most witches already know the answer to that question. But that's what makes it so fun is, I bring on these different witches from different backgrounds and practices, traditions, and witches a part of groups, witches, who are solitary, whatever, works with different gods, doesn't even believe in deity, all types of things. And we have, lists of statements. And if you watch the game show, you know that people either agree or disagree, and we have very interesting conversation. And Bella, I think that you would be a great addition on that panel if you're able to join. If you're able to join the next one, I think we talked about it
Yeah, it'd be a
earlier.
lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it would be super cool too. So I think we're gonna wrap this up. When I hit the end button, we're not going to be live anymore, but we'll be backstage. So you and I will still be together. Um, and yeah, thank you guys all for coming to tonight's show. And thank you again so much, Bella. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. It was great being here. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.